originally, the American government, folks, there was no income taxes and federal taxes levied upon the people of the Union, of the United States. What happened was, as the government became bigger, more corrupt, and more encroaching, the need for more revenue obviously increased. See, because when you go back to the founding area and you realize that the federal government was supposed to be involved in treasury, defense, and judicial. That's it. It wasn't supposed to be involved in education, housing, what you can do with your life and what you can't do. As a matter of fact, when you research it, folks, you get the understanding that the United States didn't have any legislative abilities within the 50 states that make up the Union. The 50 states were sovereign unto themselves. Of course, that all changed after the Civil War with the Reconstructionist Act. And you have to ask yourself, what they reconstruct. And what they reconstructed was our form of government, basically. When you research the Constitution for the small u, United States, and I say small u because the U was small in the original de jure Constitution. The U was an adjective describing that the states were united in this act. The reason why after the Civil War and through the Reconstructionist Acts, particularly the Lieber Codes, Francis Lieber, if that rings a bell to you, but basically the U became, it was Constitution of, as in possession, the United States, large U. And the U was large because, uppercase if you would, because it was a noun, a person, a place, or a thing. It was an entity unto itself. Very important that when we do this study that you understand that, because you're going to see a tremendous abstract reasoning in language from the de jure Constitution to the Constitution post-Civil War. So folks, when you're paying your income tax voluntarily to a private corporation that is the Federal Reserve, because the IRS, folks, and we'll get into this, is purely a collection agency for the private cartel that you know as the Federal Reserve. And it does two things. Because we are under a fiat money system, okay? Fiat, it has no value. We've got into all that. We have no gold, we have no silver, we have no intrinsic value backing our medium of exchange. We don't have dollars, we have Federal Reserve notes. Note being an acknowledgement, of debt. All right? So we got into all that. And that's not what we're debating right now. We are talking about this commission, but everything that I just said about the fiat money system is vitally important, because what history shows us is that there has never been a fiat currency to survive the test of time. The Greeks, the Romans, the Byzantines, the Italians, the Germans, soon to be the Americans. If you build a house on a straw foundation, the house comes down, okay? There's no foundation in our money system except for the issuance of debt currencies through a credit mechanism. Your corporation that you know as the government went bankrupt to this private foreign bank that you know is the Federal Reserve through the International Monetary Fund. Okay? So did that affect you? Well, it certainly did, and I'm going to tell you the reason why. Because after the Civil War, they took the black person off of the private plantation and put all of us on the federal plantation. We became an asset to the corporation. And this is how we became the corporate entity, the artificial person. This is from the Congressional Record, March 17th, 1993, volume number 33. Let me repeat that. You can go on the internet and look at this, folks. You can read it verbatim. Congressional Record, March 17th, 1933, volume 33. And here we go. This is a representative of the name of Jim Traficant speaking to the House of Representatives. Mr. Speaker, we are now here in Chapter 11. Members of Congress are official trustees presiding over the greatest reorganization in world history, the U.S. government. It is an established fact that the United States federal government has been dissolved by the Emergency Banking Act, March 9th, 1933, 48 Statute 1 Public Law 89-79, declared by President Roosevelt being bankrupt and insolvent. House Joint Resolution 192, 73rd Congress, in session June 5th, 1933. Joint resolution to suspend the gold standard and abrogate the gold clause dissolved the sovereign authority of the United States and the official capabilities of all United States governmental officers, and departments, which is further evidence that the United States federal government exists today in name only. Prior to the Civil War, you really didn't care who the President of the United States was. And I'm going to tell you the reason why. The United States president had no power over the states of the Union. You were more concerned about who your governor was. Because when you get back to the pyramid of our government, started at the local level at the top and worked its way down to the state and then federal level at the bottom. But what they've done with that pyramid is they've flip-flopped it. We're no longer like this where the locals at the top, now the feds are at the top. How did that happen? What took place that we flip-flopped this whole process of understanding of who was superior and who was inferior in position? The Civil War happened is what took place. And let's go with this. The U.S. government, a.k.a. United States Incorporated, a.k.a. Washington, D.C., is legally bankrupt and in Chapter 11 reorganization, as Mr. Traficant spoke of on the House of Representatives floor. The Secretary of the Treasury is the receiver in bankruptcy. Reorganization Plan number 26 of 1950, 5 U.S.C.A. 903, Public Law 94-564, Legislative History, page 5967. So if you want to look this up, because you're not believing what I'm saying, and we don't want you to believe what we're saying, we want you to look this up, please reference that right there. And runs the corporation on behalf of the Federal Reserve. So who is running the operations and giving orders to the government? Is it your elected officials, your congressmen, your senators, your president? No, they're bankrupt. They have to answer to the creditors, folks. So who is? The Secretary of the Treasury, because of the insolvency, of the bankruptcy. Folks, basically all we do is elect officials to an insolvent corporation that answers to a bunch of foreign banking entities. That's all we do. And that's why when we say to you, there's no difference between Republicans and Democrats, there's really not. Because guess why? They're both taking their marching orders from the same entity, the bankers.